with Gearmund, the most handsome man in the Cosmos ecosystem, with this beautiful hair, amazing jawline.
Mm.
Um,
It's nothing compared to the one that seems to appear from your videos from time to time.
oh, don't Kryptonium. Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
That's the real man. Um, so I'm speaking to you, and I will be like from the position maybe on of the skeptic, because I think for most of the people, so you work at Empower Chain, so this is like um could you say renewable, sustainable, economical model, which I'm not fully understanding, and I'm always like very skeptical. I'm like super skeptical of projects that work on the carbon credits, because I cannot really see where the value is coming from this project, you know. But first of all, like if you don't mind introducing yourself a little bit, who you are, what you work on, and how did you get into blockchain, and also Empower Chain, because I believe it happened before you joined the blockchain, because Empower Chain come from Web 2, right?
yes, that's correct. So, yeah, I mean, my background is from software development. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm a software engineer by education, and I worked with yeah, just typical uh, enterprise software development
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning of my career, and then I started moving towards more like innovation work, and I did some AR and VR and stuff like that. And that's sort of the same time when I picked up crypto around 2016 approximately, when I had heard about Bitcoin already, but I wasn't like super
Mm-hmm.
interested in it. But when Ethereum came along, it hit my software
Mm-hmm.
um, brain. That's when I saw there was some potential there. So I spent quite a lot of time um, just figuring out just figuring out how this would work. How would a blockchain and like programming come together? So that
Mm-hmm.
was very fun for me. Um, yeah, and then I think it was I started writing blog posts and stuff about it. That was like partially for me to learn, but also because I
Blog
enjoyed.
post about like Ethereum and
Yeah, so
or mhm.
it was I was blogging about all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff in programming, but also I, yeah, I tried to make blockchain understandable because I had spent so much time trying to understand it.
Hmm.
So I tried to like, how can I break this down into something that's sort of makes sense for people.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and that's how I met one of the co-founders, the CEO at Empower. He found me on LinkedIn or something, I think,
I
from
spoke to him. What's his name? Can you remind me?
Will or Wilhelm.
Um,
Will on Fire, I think he goes by on Twitter right now.
oh, that's maybe not, because I know you have one. Oh, that's, I think that's him. I spoke to him before about some legal stuff, but we never actually pursue. Like it was
That's
about
sounds
some.
about right. Yeah,
Yeah.
he has a background
Hmm.
as a lawyer. But he has basically just started companies since after he finished law school, so he
Yeah.
has never practiced law.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so he was working on some a different startup around solar energy at the time,
Hmm.
and to like do something with blockchain, I think.
Hmm.
So we started a company in 2017 called Safe Place, which was this um, wallet SDK thing. It,
Hmm.
but yeah, it didn't really take off. But what we did during that time was what we looked for different use cases for this. Like, how can we yeah, use this for anything. Yeah, yeah, anything that's a little better than just shit coins
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So that's when we met. Um, uh, one the third co-founder, a guy named Simen Knutsen. He's a Norwegian surfer, like super hippie with long hair and everything. And yeah,
Team of
he
handsome guys, team of handsome
oh,
Vikings and power chain,
yeah,
right? And,
yeah, it was like the team with the hair. I think that was
mm-hmm.
the 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 foundation of Empower is definitely hair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so he sort of challenged us on how we could use this for like plastic waste cleanup,
Mm-hmm.
because he runs an NGO in Norway called Nordic Ocean Watch, and they do beach cleanups and stuff like that. So we that was actually Empower was actually just the first use case and first concept we came up with for Safe Place.
Mm-hmm.
Was can we do basically pay people to clean up plastic waste using blockchain? So it's sort of based on the like this bottle deposit systems where you
Mm-hmm.
typically you pay a fee when you buy like a bottle or something, and then you get it back. So it's like an
Mm-hmm.
incentive to get it back, and it works really well. It's like 97% of like all bottles in Norway that have this deposit on it gets recycled. So it like the incentive part of that works really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was sort of the start of Empower. 2018 we started, and with that idea in mind, and
Yeah.
yeah, we did like cleanups in 15, 16 different countries the first year, just testing out different things. And that's when in that period we ended up pivoting a bit because we sort of saw we needed more like infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
digital infrastructure to sort of be able to track the waste and see where
Yeah.
things ended
Yeah.
up and so on. So yeah.
Well, Norway is a specific place because Norway seems like sorry, let me just turn off the aircon. That's that's such a bad start, like because we're talking about the green energy and stuff, and I'm here like let me turn off my aircon, which is like really bad. But it's in tropical place. I'm not sure if you're using as well now in Colombia,
Oh,
but it's
I'm in this
winter.
weird little cabin, and
Yeah,
it's a little bit up in the hills outside of Medellin, and it's super cold. Uh,
nice.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
like because I see you in the hoodie and another like such a green move, right? I'm not living in the city. I look and you like in the cabin. Like everyone's gonna stay probably in the hotel close to the event, but you are in the cabin, like that's
for now,
that's
for the event itself, I will stay in a hotel close by because it's
right,
gonna get
right.
late.
So,
This is
so
like
y-
40 minutes drive from the city center. I'm not doing that
yeah. Did you
after
go
after
earlier
college.
just to adjust a little bit? And
Yeah, I just and I also just wanted to like
yeah.
I'm tired of traveling. So I just wanted to just be here and relax
Hmm.
in some calm
Yeah. Where
place.
about Norway you from?
I'm from the south, near Oslo.
Right. Yeah. I traveled once, like I traveled once. That's one. But Norway is very specific because if I would have to point one country that is more um green energy focused, plastic waste focused, that's Norway. But
Yeah.
it's hard to compare the Norway to the rest of the world because Norway is also a very rich country uh, that had amazing economical boom because of the oil discovery.
Mm-hmm.
So the people are wealthy. They have time to worry about the world issue, and it also has very small population. It had, I believe, big incentives for electric cars. So a lot of Norwegians drive electric cars, right? But it's hard
We're like
to
a
like,
huge Tesla country. I think
yes,
we're the I think we're the country with the most amount of Teslas per capita.
Yes, yes, I think you are, because I read about this. Um, but I always you mentioned some solar powers, and I wonder what's your opinion before we get into empowered chain on the future of energy. Because for me, for something to work, in order to work, especially when we talk about like this renewable energy, it's not only for privileged Norwegians or people from San Francisco, but it has to work for disadvantaged communities around the world. And there's two things how to do it. It has to be cheaper, and it has to be more efficient. So,
Yeah,
and as we were progressing with the development of energy, we were heading in this direction until discovering of nuclear energy. And then it was first time in the history of the world that we decided to go backwards, and we decided to start abandoning nuclear power plants in order to consume more coal and oil, because of some concerns that the people had about nuclear power plants, while the coal is essentially worse, so less efficient, worse, and I think even more expensive. I'm not sure. um, but those seems to be not found, because Japan relies fully on nuclear power plants, and they had some bad events few years ago. Not a single person was affected in the because of the problems at the nuclear power plant, so it seems they are rather safe. um
yeah. I mean,
w-
modern nuclear facilities are incredibly safe. Even the one in Fukushima, the one that got affected by the earthquake,
mhm,
was an old one as well.
mhm,
It's like they said if it was a newer one, it wouldn't have happened.
mhm.
And even that was, like you said, it was fairly limited still. So
So my question is, like, what you see as the future energy? Is it solar power plants? Is it nuclear power plants? Where we are heading?
um, my guess is that I think we're gonna need to sort of do everything we can there. I don't
Hmm.
think so. I've tried to read into a little bit about it because, like, I'm from a just from a surface point of view. To me, it seems like nuclear energy would be the solution.
Hmm.
It's by far the cleanest, least intrusive on the environment, least. It's technically, you could argue that it's not renewable, but for all practical purposes, it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so from what I've read about it, it seems like it might not be completely practical to replace all energy with that yet, at least not with um, fusion.
Hmm.
They're working on the fission thing as well, I guess, but I don't know how that's gonna work out. But yeah, I think it's gonna have to be a combination of
Hmm.
all we can do, basically,
Hmm.
of wind and solar and um, water and everything.
I,
Um,
I think also worth leaving wind energy a little bit. How's the Norway about this? Because they said it affects some birds, and right, like it's some.
yeah, yeah, it's a whole thing in Norway now. The government is trying to subsidize and put a lot more effort into wind, but
Oh, right.
everywhere they try to put it, the locals go pretty crazy. There's been a lot of interesting situations where they've parked
Mhm.
their cars in the middle of the roads to
Yeah.
stop work and stuff.
What's more efficient, wind or solar?
Also, I'm not actually sure. I would think that solar would be getting there. It's
Hmm.
the the like the newer solar panels are really getting really effective and cheaper. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I don't really know the data. I think Willem would be the better
yeah,
person to answer that question because he has worked with it.
because I was thinking you can be really efficient with wind because per square like kilometer you can put these massive turbines, right? And solar
Mhm.
it really takes like big spaces. But yeah, like we were in Poland, they were building a lot of like wind turbines on the example of Germany, but over time they just simply stopped because of these controversies and affecting birds or whatever other issues. There's another problem that like I was thinking how we can solve it, and like energy is like really interesting. Um, I think not even many people realize that, but I feel a lot of problems would be solved with the sustainability if we simply find out the way how to remove the energy waste and mismanagement. I read somewhere that over half of the energy produced doesn't get to the consumers. It's wasted in the generators, in the power grids, etc., etc., etc. And like let's round it to 50%. If we could find a way to not waste it, essentially even if we use coal and other things, we would be very green. like, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. It's I think so. There's obviously a lot on the just the pure technology side there, but also like for instance, if we were able to put if we manage to get the technology good enough and cheap enough that we can put, let's say, solar panels on people's roofs.
hmm
If we can get it closer, then you get rid of the whole problem with a lot of it getting um, wasted on the way, because that's where a lot of it needs to to transfer something.
yeah.
That costs energy as well, so
hmm hmm
it's not free. So getting it close, getting it efficient,
hmm
I think
do
that's
you
going to be
think
useful.
we could maybe solve like you in Norway, you cannot buy energy from Poland, right? You
No, but
direct.
we have a lot of we have some cables now to UK and
Oh wow.
some others. Yeah, we've set up some. There's because we yeah yeah I there's a whole thing been a whole thing this whole last
Because
year with
that's quite fascinating that energy is essentially in full custody of the states. Like this is one thing that where humans have no say. Like you in this country, you pay this price, but like we don't really didn't progress into this higher, like we had globalization with the information, but yet we are unable to hit the globalization in the energy markets, which would like solve a lot of issues, right? If you could like use the power grids in different places and stuff, and get more efficient energy cheaper, that would like solve a lot of issues. That's something I'm interested, right? And
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean that's I guess what EU is trying to do to some extent with their energy markets, and that's where these cables are coming from. I think originally is there's some EU parts to this,
yeah, well,
but yeah, I
they,
mean
they
they're
struggle a
not
lot with.
doing so hot right now when it comes to energy. So
Yeah. But let's get to empower, like and for the introduction, like you're probably well aware of like carbon credits. Can you tell me if the carbon credits are profitable for communities, or it's rather just the guild uh, payment for the guild of the uh, privileged people? Because what I understand is like that if you have the company that pollutes the environment, to feel better about that, you can purchase the carbon credits from the people who run the ventures that are able to consume the carbon, whether via forest and stuff.
yeah. So
But you kind of.
there's different types of carbon credits, right? So there's that have slightly different purposes.
Mhm.
Um, so you have the like mandatory carbon credits, which are states or I don't know if it's also on the EU level and stuff like that, but where I guess I don't remember exactly how it works, but I think there's some um, they have like quotas essentially that they
Yeah.
can use, and they have to sort of buy carbon credits to offset what they
Yeah.
owe for that or something. And then you have the voluntary ones, which are basically what you're describing. Um, but again, but they differ so much because like some of them are also very suspect in terms of their efficiency if they actually do anything, because
Hmm.
they're always after the fact credits, right? So they're given to someone who, let's say, create someone who let's say do sets up a solar park or
Yeah.
something like that, and they're given carbon credits for that. That's others can buy later, 10 years later or something. And it's often very difficult to know if that solar park had been built anyway, because
Hmm.
it's not it's meant as an incentive, but at the same time you can't necessarily say that's you're offsetting this ton of carbon in any case. So it's
Well,
that's where I
you
think
you're not really
what's
offsetting. You just build the new like energy plants, like
yeah,
where.
it's not it had there's a lot of problems with it.
So.
And
Hmm.
it's yeah, but I think I like what region is doing a lot more, which is
Hmm.
they're trying to actually like protect carbon instead, and incentivize people um, to protect and regenerate soil and keep carbon in the ground, which I think is at least a much better solution um, than this after the facts things.
Yeah, I try
Um,
to, but even what's region is doing, like what I want to understand how it affects the poorer communities, because to me it does seem like carbon credits put additional cost on the ventures, right?
yeah, yeah,
which which is which is not the solution, because solution is always putting costs down. And like this is like you can't accelerate the economy and by putting extra costs just because you think you want to. People and the developing countries will always choose the cheaper solution.
yeah.
So like is there like any solution in carbon credits, or cannot provide this?
It depends very much how it's implemented.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think it can be a voluntary solution. I think it
Hmm.
needs to be it needs to be a well thought through international effort where where the where it's going to cost a lot to pollute basically,
Hmm.
um, and that cost of polluting should go towards um, uh, sponsoring essentially
Hmm.
cleaner energy other places, and yeah, everywhere essentially. Because so at least the way I think about it is that it's a good it's potentially, if used correctly, it's a good way to incentivize more development and more usage of, let's say, solar and all these things,
Hmm.
because if there's more incentives to do it, then it will be more research done on it, then it will be cheaper, more efficient, and
Hmm.
that's sort of it's a sort of a positive spiral there,
Yeah.
where yeah, that's potentially it could work like that, but for now it just does not.
Doesn't the ventures that sell carbon credits would have in the best interest to encourage the polluters to produce more? I mean, to
Yeah,
pollute environment more, which would create this weird economy. So those who sell carbon credits are actually incentivized to go to those who pollute environment and encourage them to pollute more, because it means more profits for the carbon credits producers. Am I thinking something wrong here?
no, I think that's quite right. The and that there are companies that do this, right? That's sort of, I mean, most of these, at least the voluntary ones, they're like UN based and stuff like that typically,
Mm-hmm.
and you can buy them directly from the UN. But what typically happens is that there are other companies that buy them from the UN and then sort of package them in for
Yeah.
companies to buy. So you can, like, there's yeah, so you can make it like a PR campaigns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then it's, yeah, then we're now we're sort of into greenwashing, right? So it becomes just a
Yeah.
meaningless, uh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
meaningless money thing.
So here is you. You focus solely on plastic. We have problems. The oceans are full of plastic. I guess that's how it came because your partner is this surfer. He saw a lot of plastic being washed up on the Norwegian coastline. Even though I don't believe Norwegians throw a lot of plastic to the ocean, it's rather like washing from the less developed countries, right? Um,
And the UK, we get, because of the
oh.
currents, we get a lot from the UK. So yeah, I remember we were up on the west coast of Norway doing some cleanups there,
Hmm.
and almost all the bottles were from the UK.
Yeah. Can you tell me um what Empower is exactly doing and what is the business structure or business model of this cleanups? I believe this is more main business cleanup, right? Like it's
It's a little
but
more than that, but that's
yes,
how it started.
this is the part I want to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like I mentioned, we sort of pivoted a bit more towards this traceability
Mm-hmm.
and infrastructure part, digital infrastructure. So from 2019, we built this SaaS platform
Mm-hmm.
essentially for traceability. So it's sort of, it's used by collection organization to register what they clean up, and then they use that software to trace the plastics to the recyclers, to the producers, and into products again. So you get this yeah, traceability that you can use for, well, the original purpose was we needed it for those cleanups because people were sponsoring cleanups,
Mm-hmm.
and we couldn't really tell always where it ended up if we weren't there ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
which most of the times we were not. So we had partners that did it, but we couldn't prove that the waste wasn't just thrown back out
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So we needed better solutions for that. Yeah, and then sort of the last 3 years, the markets and everything has changed a lot, and now there's, like, in the EU, there's this new virgin plastic tax thing that's coming. That where it's going to be very expensive to use new plastic. So now there's suddenly the demand for recycled plastic is really high,
Mm-hmm.
but there's almost no supply. There's tons of waste out there, but
Mm-hmm.
it's almost impossible to get to because it's uh, well, one, it's mixed with all other kinds of waste,
Mm-hmm.
which makes it really difficult to recycle and expensive. But also, it's typically if it does get collected in some way, it's very difficult to prove that it's where it's from because
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of informal sector that gets this. But you have, like, in almost everywhere in the world, there is some sort of plastic collection going on, especially
Mm-hmm.
for the type of plastic that has some value.
Mm-hmm.
So but like I said, it's often it can
What
be dry
plastic has
labeled.
value? Can you tell me?
It's high quality clean plastic, typically, and it's bottles, like the PET type of plastic is very
Mm-hmm.
valuable. It's easy to recycle, and it is often not colored, which is also important. Um, but yeah, like this typical like a chocolate wrapper type of plastic, this thin stuff that crumbles. That's crap plastic that can't be used for much. It's colored. It's low quality. It's yeah. So that's yeah.
There
That's
would be
more
no
tricky.
incentive to collect this one. Um,
No.
how much worth is the bottle in the cents or fraction of a cent? If you can give me the price.
Oh, I really should know that, but I don't.
Yeah,
I don't remember. It's been a while since I. But it's in tonnage, but I don't remember.
yeah. So the first of all, like the I believe the Empower chain had to encourage cleanup by incentives.
Yeah.
I still cannot see the money. Probably the
Yeah.
money had to come from some whether government organizations or something like this, right? That there was not money.
Yeah.
It's
So we
just
have. So there's two. So okay. So just to I'm gonna rewind to sort of get to the empower chain part. So the like I said, we have this SaaS platform. It's not too much blockchain involved there. There's
Mhm,
some proof of existence stuff, but it's other than that, it's pretty much Web two.
mhm,
So empower chain is sort of us coming back to this the initial idea with incentivizing cleanups with blockchain and yeah, basically just decentralizing a lot of what we built to be able to scale it and make
mhm,
make it more like a public good kind of thing.
mhm,
And yeah, so the one incentive is for the waste collectors themselves. So that can be different kind of deposit schemes essentially. So you have Empower have we have our own incentive scheme, which is basically this. It's sponsor based. So we have sponsors that help pay for that cleanup essentially, and
y-
that's the only way right now where it's easy to get all this
mhm.
crap plastic back
Yes.
and other kinds of waste.
So you rely
Uh,
on sponsors. There is still
for that, yes.
no incentive. Um, can you well
And the other
mhm,
incentive part is connected, but it's called what we call plastic credits, which is similar to carbon credits,
mhm,
and those are for the cleanup organizations.
mhm.
Yeah, and that's quite similar, and it's also incentivizes cleanup of other, yeah, any kind of materials really, and it's also volunteer based,
Can you
but
can you
yeah.
can you tell me if there is a way for what you do to sustain without incentives and create a vibrant um, ecosystem of cleaners, uh, recycling company and stuff, and try to be profitable, or it will has to rely on incentives, but maybe they will be able to bring the costs of what we have right now, right? Because I believe EU is like spends a lot of money on that, but maybe it's inefficient, etc. So I want to learn that part.
Yeah, so the way to make this work is where this concept of circular economy comes in,
Hmm.
and that's basically where it's not about cleaning up waste anymore. At the point where it's waste and it has to be cleaned up, it's inefficient and unlikely to be economically sustainable because it's
Hmm.
just going to be too expensive, and there needs to be some altruism for that to be totally cleaned
Yeah.
up. But the end goal and the end solution is that the products that we use um, do not get thrown away. That there can be, just like the bottles, just delivered back in some fashion, um, and go directly to recycling. So that's the like this. These incentives can also be from the producers themselves to say, okay, if you bring back our, I don't know, shares or whatever back to us, will give you I don't know, whatever it's worth. But if they're designed correctly, they typically can be recycled fairly well. So it's a kind of a complex problem, because it involves product design, it involves
Hmm.
uh, physical and digital infrastructure. It involves yeah, a lot of practical and uh, other things there, but it's sort of what we need to move
Hmm.
towards.
And is recycling products cheaper than producing them from the scratch?
Can be.
Can be.
um,
Okay. Yeah.
it can be, if it's done well.
Hmm.
Typically, for most products today, they're not made to be recycled, they're made to be thrown away.
Hmm.
um, and there's very little reason for companies to make them
Hmm.
any other way. Simply because it's currently almost impossible to
Hmm.
actually get them back and reuse them. There's no physical or digital infrastructure for it. But it also needs to be there needs to be some amount of producer responsibility involved,
Hmm.
for at least to get it kickstarted, I think. So but that's what the bottle deposit thing actually is. It's not really like a be nice kind of thing. It's actually it's called an extended producer responsibility scheme.
Yeah.
And it's basically, if the producers do not get um, a certain percentage back of their bottles, they have to pay some hefty fines. So that's kind of how it's the carrot for the consumer and the stick for the producers.
So it cannot work without trapping the producers, right? Like you have to trap them.
Well,
Like, hey,
that's
you will pay the fine if you don't do it. Or
potentially, it can also, of course, come from the consumer side of things as well. Consumer pressure
Mhm.
does a lot of, like, if there's demand, that's
Yeah.
that's that they but
Well,
that's we can't rely on that either. So there's
yeah.
there's a mixture of incentive and and the sticks, but also, like, making it actually feasible to do it is also an extremely big part of it.
Yeah.
Like, the most of the companies that we're working with now to do this, they're like the pioneers that sort of have this as their in their DNA, that they're going to be sustainable and all of this. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's as it gets more effective and more efficient, it will be less of a hurdle to get there as well.
What I would really like to see that, those producers would not be trapped, but they would have like the economical benefits for collecting it back, right? For example, if we could have design of the bottles or whatever, that, let's say, producing the 1 ton of bottles or whatever cost you $2, but hey, recycling this costs you 150, and that's already like, like that's already scalable business. That's like cutting out the costs, which on the long term brings a lot of savings. So what you essentially also said, I'm trying to grab it. You said that current models of the recycling that is not incentivized doesn't work. You say that cleaning up doesn't really work because it's involved altruism. What you say, we need to create something better, and we have to have these points of collection that are incentivized, and you as the consumer of the products wrapped in the plastics will be incentivized to deliver them back to those points of collection, and with that you will receive the rewards in form of tokens that have maybe intrinsic value, intrinsic some monetary value, whether like your yearly collection could be worth maybe 50 cents or something, and with this small you create this aware economy, right? am, am
Hmm.
i am i getting right at it?
Yeah, I think that's about it. And like this, the part of the way I see it is that you have to kind of push and pull from both directions there. So it's
Hmm.
like the if you manage to get these products back early on, like
Hmm.
before they go in the trash, that you actually deliver it back, you already cut the a lot of the costs of
Hmm.
recycling, because then
Yeah.
you have like collection and segregation at source. So you don't have to clean it, you don't have to separate from other things. So
Hmm.
that's a lot of cost savings there. And then you also have this, like I said, these taxes that are also added on like virgin materials.
Hmm.
So if you when you start combining those, it starts to add up and it becomes actually more profitable to use recycled materials. And that's when you that's where we got to get to. And I think it requires to go from both ends, but it requires it to be a system there.
Hmm. How you can incentivize here the so I see it working in Europe, putting tax of this on this like virgin products, and I see it working in US. You can have aware communities, um, but how you are able to implement it in India, where
Actually, India and so Southeast Asia and Africa is where we're working the most. That's where this is the easiest, because that's where there are already actually there's quite a lot of physical infrastructure in place, because there's it comes from poverty to a large extent, that there's a lot of people who are willing to go out and pick up bottles and pick up all these things and deliver them for very very small.
yeah.
It's not livable at all, but it's if it's all you got, it's what you do. So there's being able to put extra incentives on top of that, connect with like let them be able to document what they're doing, and then let the producers come and take that and buy that from them. It's basically just a
Hmm.
win across the board.
So yeah, because essentially, if someone in these places can make $20 a month, it might be not much for you, but for them it could be, few meals for the family, right? But it comes from incentives. So you could essentially maybe connect the companies in more developed places with those poorer places and get the infrastructure going, right? But
Yeah,
the transport is expensive probably, or but I mean you can do it locally, those
yeah,
recycling
that's
depending on.
that's we've done both essentially. So it's so
Yeah.
we've been done projects where we shipped stuff in containers, but what we're trying to do is, of course, if we can get it recycled locally. And there's, because of all these things happening, we also see that there are now being invested a lot into local facilities to
Mhm.
handle all that. So
Yeah.
it's happening, but it's yeah, it takes some time.
A little off topic, but I had a friend working for like big shipping company. She was telling
Mhm.
me that all we ship from Europe to China is trash. Like nothing, we don't do anything else. We like we from China to Europe, like we ship products and we send back the trash. That's kind
Yeah,
of like not saying
it's
grand, but that's how
yeah,
we are. That's how we green in Europe, right? Like, hey, we have rubbish here. Let's send it there. Like
yeah,
Um,
pretty much.
but I tell you also, like like, so now I'm in Hong Kong, and the recycling in Hong Kong is one big bullshit scheme. So
Yeah.
you have the recycling bins, they are not recycling. Like, it shows you have the bins, and everyone knows that. So you have bins, here is the can, plastic bottles. First of all, no one cares, throw in whatever. Second of all, some of these bins, if you would open this, it's still one place under. So
that's that's hilarious.
so you don't even have to care. Like, so when you see recycling, like, don't bother. Like, just throw it, because they will put it all to one spot later, which is another problem, right? Because that's
Yeah.
And also, like, if you travel to Asia, you see this kind of trend of wrapping every single fruit in the plastic, like, to make it look nicer, which is something we don't do, but they are obsessed of doing this. And there's complete misunderstanding if it's bad or wrong. My mother-in-law, even, when we travel, and you would open her luggage after it's used, every single pair of trousers and stuff will be in separate plastic bag.
Oh,
And I would show you sometimes when we travel. I should take the picture. Like, there is no concept of this being, hey, that's not necessarily great. Like, you will not be able to. I mean, some would like, but you would not be able to explain to them. Like, you just want. Like, this is how
mm,
you do. Like, you separate this because this trousers is dirty. We need to separate this in plastic bag. This is clean. We need to separate it in plastic bag, and etc. So I see some problems here, in the people. And I would say if you go to, like, China, to mainland, that's even on the worst scale, and you want, like, so this is like really difficult part. And I would, we can be aware, but there is plenty of people that are not. um
yeah, and it's a lot of it comes from just this very sudden change, because like plastics was is fairly new. It's like
hmm
almost all of it has been produced the last 50 years.
yeah.
And so like some, I remember some of the early like things we did where we were in some project in the jungle in Laos, in some villages there,
hmm
and they had just very suddenly, on a grand scheme of things, gone from wrapping everything in like leaves and
hmm
uh, like plant-based materials that you could just throw on the ground because it's
hmm
it didn't.
yeah.
And then they started using plastic instead, and they just kept and then just did the same thing that they always had, and it was just trash everywhere. And it was, so what, how do we deal with this? Well, we just take it and we put it in the river and it goes away. So nice.
Problem gone, right? Like, what's
Problem
the
solved.
um yeah, like, is there any, have we discovered any new material that is cheaper in production than plastic, and also can degrade, or not really?
Not that I know of. Plastic
Yeah.
is incredibly cheap
Yeah.
to produce, and we've got so much experience with it that yeah, and the technology is really good. Um, and as we and now we have a like another problem we have on our hands is that with if oil is going to start being phased out from energy
Mm-hmm.
production and stuff like that, the big oil companies, their next target is, well, the other thing we use oil for, it's plastics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they're gonna lobby like they're not gonna accept this recycling thing. That's not good for their business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I heard of this. Like, there is a lot of stuff made of oil, actually.
There is.
And I watched the interview with, I think it was CEO of ExxonMobil, and they are not concerned. They like, many people think that the oil companies are very scared of electric cars. They are not. He and in the interview he said that they are fine. The estimation in 20 years when we have electric cars, and he said already big portion of their business come from different ventures. Like, so there is so many usage of the oil that, like, the cars is the, production of the petrol is one, but there is like plastics. There is like the things that you warm up your houses. Don't know how to call it in English, but I think isn't in asphalt is used as well. Like, it's in, like, pretty much everything
Yeah,
it's used. So there is there and it will be hard to get rid of this as long as there is, need for that. um
yeah, yeah. No, it's unlikely to go away anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
yeah, I mean the production of plastic as well is like it's not stopping. It's still
Mhm.
exponential.
Do we have
So
enough plastic on the earth right now to sustain? Like, in if we would recycle what we have, can we make it like just it's enough now?
I would imagine so. Except that
Mhm.
it so much of it is bad. It's crap quality. Like all this, most of it can't be recycled. Um, and
Mhm.
and if and contaminated in some way.
Mhm. Is there a limit of how many times we can recycle one bottle, for example, or you can continue doing this as long as it's done correctly?
Practically, right now, it's there are some limits to it. In
Mm-hmm.
theory, there's not really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The technology gets better and better on this,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's and in the end, you can. There's also a lot of work happening on this thing called like upcycling, making the quality higher, and you
Mm-hmm.
can. And in the end, it's like the something else that a lot of people are working on is actually chemical recycling, turning it back into
Yeah.
oil.
Yeah. Um, I see you have mushroom on your hoodie.
I do.
What type of mushroom is that?
I don't know. A very colorful one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I have a. It's an even bigger one. I think on the
Oh, right.
back.
Right. Right.
Just I just like colorful stuff.
Do you eat mushrooms? I mean the the ones that contain psychoactive substances.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
I mean
yeah.
I guess it's technically the at least in the Netherlands it's the truffles, the part under the ground, right? But
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah.
Um. Yeah, we have. I know in Poland a lot of grows these very thin ones. I think they have like a lot of psilocybin in them. I
Yeah.
never tried. I'm actually like, because I'm quite like I would say I'm very anxious person. So like and also like you cannot mix maybe with medication sometimes. It's like both work on the serotonin receptors. There's, I don't know, like, so, but
Yeah, I think you're not. Yeah, you should. I think it's you're supposed to be careful with that, and it's
yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I don't use it much, but
Mm-hmm.
it's I the few times that I have done it, it's I do it in a very you have to be in a very good frame of mind and good
Yeah.
place, and yeah.
Have you tried any other substances beyond mushrooms?
I mean, like
Like
marijuana, but like
LSD,
nothing. Uh,
DMT,
LSD.
or
No, it's been just LSD,
right?
psilocybin, and yeah.
Yeah. Um, I'm quite like. Do you have the like? Do you know mukomor? Mukomor? Do you have them in Norway? The red ones with white dots.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We have those. I have not eaten them.
Yeah, me too. But like as the child, we are always, when we go for like, we have the mushroom picking culture. I'm not sure if you have it too.
Yeah.
So the parents always would say, "This, you will die if you eat this one," right? But it's actually not true. Like the red ones with the dots, they are not poisonous. They are non-eatable. They are not like they are. So you can get sick, you get diarrhea, but they are non-eatable. Like you more like you will not die. But they have within them, so they have both molecules like muskimol, which is very interesting, if and they have ibotenic acid. So ibotenic acid, actually ibotenic acid is poisonous for your brain. So that's the bad part. But if you can separate this, muskimol is apparently very like interesting and like hypnotic substance.
Hmm.
um there is a lot of legends. That's how we got the Santa Claus. And I'm not sure if you heard that, like, because it all looks the same. It's red with the white beard. So it was
Hmm.
said that it, like in Finland, in the past, because the level how to extract the muskimol from ibotenic acid, the reindeers eat this, and when they pee, it's clear. So
Yeah.
apparently there were people like extracting this way, drinking and tripping, and that's how we got Santa Claus carried by the reindeers. But don't know if it's true.
Who started doing that? Who was the
Sorry.
first? Who was the first to discover that
Yeah,
worked?
so that would be probably like Finnish people. There was
Yeah,
like
of
a lot of
course.
reindeers there. I would say. Don't know if it's true, but yeah, like I'm fascinated by those substances.
Yeah,
Um.
we have in Norway. It's the saying goes that the Vikings used to take this before going
Mhm.
out on the battlefield because they would get
Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah,
crazy and
yeah. So there is like one. So the derivative, I don't know if that's the right word, of muskimol is the something called gaboxazole. It's like
okay.
very interesting molecule, and it was tested for the sleeping pill, and it was like apparently very good. Um, but some people were saying they were having hallucinations before they fall asleep, and it was in the time when the Ambien had a lot of controversies, opium, so they
Hmm.
abandoned it, and it's quite sad because apparently it was like quite good substance. Sorry for
Yeah.
going away from the
No,
point.
no, it's interesting. I'm also very interested in that, and it's the same tragedy when it comes to like LSD. There was so
Mhm.
much amazing research being done
Yeah.
before it sort of got caught up in the whole
Mhm.
drug wars thing in the US and stuff. But it's has a lot of interesting properties if used correctly
Mhm.
in therapeutical
Yeah.
stuff. Like microdosing on LSD is can be useful for many things.
Mhm. Yeah, like there is now it's back even like MDMA, LSD. I think ketamine is actually getting a lot of
That's quite popular now.
in the
Keep
trials.
hearing about it.
So those are all substances I'd like to try. Like I didn't try because like I'm always like quite concerned person. But even the creator of LSD was complaining about this. But he was also complaining about people being irresponsible with that, And he was saying he was actually like I think he was saying it's like those people are highly responsible for like distraction of the development of these drugs, because it would go to these parties and like take it, and it would like give the bad press. But in the press also there was like a lot of manipulation of all of these substances, right?
Yeah.
So back on the on the prize. You got the prize in hackathon Soul, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
was
we
it?
did.
Mm-hmm.
We so I basically I came in there and I wanted to test out Interchain accounts.
Mm-hmm.
That was my initial and my
Yeah.
only initial goal. And then so we made sort of like a kick Interchain Kickstarter was sort of the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of a smart contract that you could, for instance, deploy on Juno that would be able to where you could get funds from people,
Mm-hmm.
pool funds together and sponsor or fund something on a different
Mm-hmm.
chain, and then you would use interchain accounts to own those assets on the other chain. So you
Mm-hmm.
could uh, so we used our own like the plastic credits as an example, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but where you could um, pool together resources to fund cleanup, and you would get the plastic credits on Empower
Mm-hmm.
Chain, but the funds and the community and everything was on Juno. That was
Yeah.
yeah, basically smart contracts or an interchain accounts was sort of the what
How
we
how
hacked.
how big is the like how big would be the plastic recycle market in terms of billions of dollars, I guess, or it's not really
It's
available to find?
no, it's huge, and it's I don't know the exact market size now. It's incredibly big, and it's growing very quickly.
So for
Um,
anyone, yeah, so for anyone who would engage in those ventures, there is a lot of money to be made.
oh yeah, there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of money to be made, and it's going to be a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's yeah, and a lot of people that are already in this, right? So it's like the just from what we're fairly early stage startup still, and we've worked with like 600 organizations. We've been in 40 countries,
Hmm.
thousands and thousands of people been involved in some way, and it's we're just scratching the surface on volumes. We've
Hmm.
tracked like 200. I think we just reached like 200 million kilograms that we've tracked on the platform, and it's just a small tiny fraction of what is out there, and that's yeah. So it's just
Hmm.
the potential is enormous.
Wouldn't you get more traction on Ethereum, like more publicity? Why Cosmos? Why
Maybe
why
we
sovereign
would. I don't
chain?
know. It's so I actually I'm writing a blog post right now about exactly what went into that choice.
Hmm.
But it's a combination of the right the technology being the most mature and ready for this, for the kind
Hmm.
of scale and costs that we would need, because
Hmm.
like we even on the layer 2 chains now the are quickly getting too expensive and too
Hmm.
slow, and they get and congestion and stuff like that. So the ability to have our own chain
Hmm.
and and be sovereign, I think it's very important. So that's
Hmm.
kind of the what it boils down to.
Yeah, yeah. Um, were you checking anything about the merge? What do you think about the merge and like of Ethereum, and what do you think of the um tokenomics model of that? If you had any thoughts?
um I kind of gave up on Ethereum a long time ago when I realized it had become um, this chain for rich people,
Yes.
basically. Like it's completely unusable
Hmm.
for anything that's even slightly relevant for any normal
Hmm.
person. And I think the people who have a stake in that, quite literally now, are not gonna want to change that. Like the
Hmm.
burn thing that they got going on, it's gonna benefit holders, not not the future.
Yes.
So,
That's what I recorded video on that it's actually horrible. It's much worse than the like we here in the blockchain came with the premise of build new economic systems that are able to give the fairer access to everyone, and we made worse systems.
yeah,
So
if we gonna if we end up with this kind of burning
yeah,
um like deflationary stuff, that I understand why people want that. If they have if they're early, that makes perfect sense. It's gonna make them rich.
yeah.
But it's for the if you take a longer
Hmm.
term vision of it, that's it should be probably a lot more people than it's involved right now.
Hmm.
And maybe we don't want it to be like this super long tail of everyone being tiny and just some huge ass
Yeah.
people at the top. I don't want that. So it's
i'm 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 excited and afraid about Atom 2.0 because like I want to see, but I'm scared they're gonna tweak the tokenomics in the way that it will be like, hey, it looks cool because looks, your bank's gonna pump on the surface, but on the back you will be like, hey, it actually makes sure that those who got early are benefiting here. And like
yeah,
if this happens, I'm gonna like it will be huge disappointment. And I'm scared it might happen because I scroll through like Twitter and it's all the same. Hey, how where's the value occurring for our token? Where's the value occurring? Like, or people tweeting, hey, look at Juno, in few years it will be so scarce. I'm like, hey, people, stop thinking this is good thing. It's
yeah, it's not you don't it's not scarcity that's the end goal. If you
you
like
want
if you if you think bigger than that, it's like you want it to be used by everyone and be
yes.
decentralized and everything. You can't do this.
What, yeah, like this is exactly the point. You want people, you don't want this to be scarce. You want people to have access to these tokens, to join the community and build that. If this is too scarce, like, they will be more incentivized to build their own chain. Like, that's, no one will come to your chain if this is scarce. So like, what's your expectation? What would be like that on 2.0? Like, that would be good one for the future communities.
I don't know. Yeah, I hope it's not a short term
Mm-hmm.
pump your bag kind of thing. I hope it's something that will increase decentralization
Mm-hmm.
somehow. And but I do agree that Atom do need something to it has needed something, but I think
Mm-hmm.
interchain security is alone is a big part of that, and being able to
Mm-hmm.
provide services, but building on top of, there should be a way to build on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
was actually quite sad that the Cosmos and thing didn't happen on the hub. I thought that was actually um, could have been interesting. I also do get the other side of that coin, but it's still there's yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one, but I still like to think that this is just way too early to start
Mm-hmm.
thinking that we need to pump our bags.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's so short sighted and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, stupid.
Yeah. I actually think, like, in the times of the high demand, like, instead of making sure the price go up, we should actually dilute the tokens to make sure the price don't go up, so, like, which is like, many people would say, like, you are crazy, you don't want your bags to pump, but it makes sense. If there is high demand, you want people to have access to the tokens, right? Like, it's but yeah, we will have neutron, right, which is not exactly on top of the Cosmos, but I'm quite excited because I feel it frees the token, like, from locking them up in the staking. So if you will use the interchain security, you can have the consumer chains can have their own tokens, and they are not required for locking up, so they can be actually used and maybe scale better in economy. But I'm not
Yeah,
sure if I'm aiming right at this, but
I
that's my
hope so. And it's like
Mhm.
the for Atom to be actually to actually have some real value accrual, not just like bag pumper. I think it does need to be, it needs to be usable. It needs to be
Yeah.
used for you, be like you want to get Atom because you
hmm
need it to do what you want to do. If
yeah.
not, it's we're back to this digital gold crap, and I think
Yeah.
we don't need more of that stuff.
Yeah, I hate that rhetoric. Digital gold. What do you talk about? No one needs gold. No one uses gold. No one wants gold. Like, why would you want that? I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
it's all comes
Mhm.
back to this. Just if you all you want is to get rich, then
Yeah,
that's sort of the
yeah.
only thing you can think about.
I wonder if there is the way of, like, incentivize, like, not only staking but like participation, right? Like, splitting those two, so it makes you, hey, because staking is great, it gives you security. And at first it would seem like, hey, if we get 95% of tokens staked, it's great. It's actually not great, because you drain the liquidity, right? So you want, like, actually you don't want that much. So I wonder if we could find a balance, maybe something with Atom 2.0. I'm looking if we can. um
Yeah, I'm curious, and yeah, it's maybe it's liquid staking could be useful in that in
Mhm.
some way.
Yeah.
I'm still a little unsure about that, but
Yeah. Okay. Like, it's very late at your place. I know you're tired.
yeah,
um
I woke up actually during this, so it's fine.
Yeah, so always work like this. But I hope you can get some rest soon. The Cosmoverse is starting. I hope your project will get some attention, and that you can make connection, and like, spread the message of, like, importance of the of making this circular economy works, and incentivizing people to be more aware of what they do, and showing that there is, like, I guess, incentives for them in doing so. So thank you for your time. Um, you
Thank you
know.
for having me. And if I just one thing I wanted
Mhm.
to share at the end, which is from goes a bit into what we're talking about, like of bringing people and value to like Cosmos. It's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I really hope that we're going to be able to do with Empower Chain. Like with
Mm-hmm.
if we're able to onboard all these people who are now already doing cleanups and waste picking, and hopefully soon everyone is
Mm-hmm.
delivering back their products and stuff. We essentially are gonna onboard like a ton of hundreds of thousands of people very quickly into Cosmos, and
Mm-hmm.
with like all the IBC enabled stuff and everything coming in, it's gonna potentially be like a huge influx of people coming in that are from all kinds of backgrounds. And my personal favorite of that is like people that are like underbanked or unbanked. It's like it's one of the early crypto narratives, like, oh, we're going to bank the unbanked,
Mm-hmm.
which of course it doesn't work when that's your only goal, but it can actually work as a side effect of something like this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's
This
just
is this is
something I'm excited about.
this is great point, like, yeah, like, because if you can incentivize people, engage them, and show them, hey, here's your wallet where you can have your tokens, whether it's Empower tokens or Cosmos tokens, they will be using this because they access. It means more transactions, more awareness, more curiosity in the people. And not only the people, like us, who have time to look into blockchain, but the people who are like, hey, I'm using this because I actually need this, which
Yeah,
is amazing. So, like, huge value, if we can scale and encourage people. If you ever need anything, I'm happy to help here. So, um,
great.
once again, thank you for being here, and and enjoy your night and have a good time in Colombia, I guess.
Thank you. And we'll
Yeah,
talk again, I'm sure.
yeah,
Bye.
yeah. Thank you.